sit and okay. Pastors, if you haven't wrote your name on a piece of paper and put it in this basket, I encourage you to do it. Okay? Okay, I have one. There's a Sebastian Mireles. Yay. Where are you coming from? Sure, if you want to. Bethesda Church. Right. Remind me to give you something later. And then we have a Stuart J. Curry. Cool. You just won. So see me soon. So we're gonna start with our business session. So we're gonna have our chairman take the lead on this.
Thank you, Daniel. Ended up here, I have a couple of little notations that I didn't want to forget about, so I had to start writing them down. But number one, are you hearing me okay? Okay. Number one, back to the prayer request over Colt Robinson's Gabe and that MRI. A little update there. The MRI is done and went well. And now, of course, they'll be assessing that and diagnosing that and seeing what conclusions they can make about what the MRI is telling them. But at least praise the Lord that that part went well. All right, I'll say the rest of my little things here for when I give the executive report. But at this point, then we'll call Melissa to come and do the convention roll call.
Okay, once again, I apologize for mispronouncing every one of your churches, probably. I love you too, Christian Coes. I remembered your last name this time. Okay, so this time at roll call, if you could please stand, each one of you from your church, say your pastor's name, each delegate and guest, please say your name, and then say how many are from your church. So we'll start with Indiana, Grace International. Grace Tabernacle Ministries from Indiana. From Iowa, Emmanuel Evangelical Church. Holy Jerusalem Pentecost. From Minnesota, Butterfield Community Bible Church. Community Bible Church, Mountain Lake. Okay. Grace Church, Minnesota. Lake Region Mennonite Church. Who are you? Russian Evangelical Church. Strawberry Lake Mennonite Church. And from Montana, Coleridge Mennonite Church. Gospel Fellowship Church. Lester Mennonite Brethren Church. Okay. Okay. And from Nebraska, Faith Bible Church. For what are their names? Okay. Iglesia Aquaviva. First Slavic Church. Light of the Gospel, Living Hope Church. Okay, oh, nice. Okay, so this is the one I always mess up on, guys, so help me out. Oh, goodness. Manateel de Aquaviva. Thank you. That. I'm not sure I know this church. Stony Brook Church? Okay, and in North Dakota, Bible Fellowship Church. Cornerstone Community Church. And South Dakota, Bethel Mennonite Brethren Church. Okay, Bethel Ethiopian Fellowship. Okay. Bethesda Church. Okay. Okay. Christ Community Church. Emmanuel Mennonite Brethren Church. Ethiopian Christian Fellowship. Grace Bible Church. Lakota Mennonite Church. Lincoln Hills Bible Church. Renewal Mennonite Brethren. Salem Mennonite Brethren. And from Wisconsin, Exland Mennonite Church. And Sand Lake Chapel. Did I get everybody? Good, good. Lynn? Where?
Okay, well, thank you. So we can keep our records organized and accurate for this gathering. Thanks again. A couple other things I wanted to say before I really get into my little report. One, maybe for the benefit of a couple of you that were not able to Dakota, and as it resulted with the abortion amendment, And of course, I was been on a lot of states, and there was a lot of prediction that that was going to pass in South Dakota like it has in many other states. But it did not. It failed actually big time in South Dakota. It was quite amazing. So we figured that really was a God thing. And I knew that was a case in Florida too. I had seen that news, but then I learned afterwards from Stephen Stout that Nebraska dealt with it too, and it failed in Nebraska as well. So kudos to Nebraska as well. Yeah. Word about nominating committee. You're going to get a report on that a little bit later yet this morning on this list of reports we're going through. And we mentioned last night there's still about 3 spots that we're trying to get filled. And we might have 1 or 2 of them filled. There might be one that we're maybe going to come up with dry. And so you'll hear a little more about that if that really is the case. I guess the best opinion that I had at this point, unless others can give me more guidance along that lines, is we may leave the convention with that position unfilled, and then we may look to the executive board and the DMC to see if they can get an appointment in place within the next month or so after the convention. So if some of you have experienced that before and have some better advice, I welcome it. And then as you look at my report in your packet, I just tried to catch a couple of highlights that we've experienced through the year as a central district. It's been a good year. It's been a challenging year. Obviously, God is really working, but so is the evil one. So we need to continue to stay on our knees in prayer for God's protection and for his hedge around our churches and our leadership. Churches that are in between pastors right now for God's guiding and leading to the one that he already. I just want to say that, I noticed in my report Ephesians 6:10, where we're told to put on the full armor of God, that we may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the forces of evil. So a couple changes that I wanted to note in the Central District, that they don't come up later in our reports this morning. I want to congratulate Jesse Swears, who was chosen to head the USMB, Board of Faith and Life. That is a big job, a big responsibility, and I think we should feel really grateful and appreciative of his willingness to do that, and for the opportunity that, frankly, it gives our central district to help have a even bigger voice and influence in, I'll just say, maintaining the integrity of our doctrine and our confession of faith across our whole conference nationwide, because it's another area where the evil one is working all the time. And then I wanted to note, our new district minister, that's getting to be not quite so new now, Daniel Rodriguez. He's just finishing up his 2nd year. We're so thankful that God sent him to us and that he was willing to say yes. And so let's thank him and keep praying for him and his family as he is on the road and traveling a lot and trying to be the pastor's pastor. That's kind of the official little title of our district minister. And then just one word about the trustee committee, because you'll hear that from their chair in a little bit here, of things that they've been working on, especially as it comes to financial reporting and as we have larger and larger budgets, and how to manage that most effectively, and have the timely financial reporting that the trustees and the conference likes to see. And then our church planning and renewal committee, you'll hear reports there too. They've had a very busy year, and different requests for larger facilities because God is blessing those congregations. They need better space. They need more space. Some of them are in temporary rental places that maybe the landlord isn't too excited about renewing because the landlord might have better opportunities for a return with some other arrangements. So there's a variety of things like that going on. And so there's plenty to pray about with the Planting and Renewal Committee too. So I think I'll just wrap up with, these really are exciting times. They're challenging times. I'm really grateful, encouraged to see a nice turnout for this convention here. Thank you all for your faithfulness. I know many of you have and are serving in a variety of capacities in your own local church, and you've also, or many of you have taken on leadership responsibilities from time to time among these committees that we mentioned. And so the reward that you may get here with receiving thanks from those of us and others that know you and appreciate the work you do, your reward really is going to be on the other side of this world when we get to see Jesus face to face. So thank you for that service. And with that, I think it's time for the district minister.
It was good to be here. Convention, just family gathering. I heard that was the term that it was used. Is we get to be together again as a family. So very, very excited. District Minister report. How are we doing? And I get that question a lot. Like, how are we doing in our churches? And sometimes I'm not exactly sure how to answer that question. And so I said, well, you tell me how you're doing, right? You're in your church every week. You're in that context. And so we see a lot of different challenges in our churches. And I guess the role of the Central District and myself as a district minister is just to be an encouragement, and to the main concern that I was hired is make sure that we have a pastor to the pastor. So that was kind of my top priority, be the pastor to the pastors. And so we're trying to promote that with our pastors. And I started seeing a lot of relationship with the pastors. And one of the things that I'm excited about is just the way that we are trying to encourage one another as a pastors. And I have this, some pastors come to me and they say, well, I might have another 5 to 7 years, and then I don't think I'm going to be able to do this anymore. I think there's need to be a transition, and so we're looking for new pastors that are going to be the pastors for the Central District. So leadership development has become a priority for the Central District. How are we going to replace the pastors that we have? Because guess what? At some point, they're going to die, right? Everybody at some point is gonna die. So how are we gonna have new people in those roles, right? And we had a workshop last week in Minot, and it was really a really good time in Minot. And some of the Cornerstone Church came from Harvey, and the Coleridge Church came, and we were talking about that. And one of the things that people said, well, I think sometimes the issue in smaller churches is that the people, if they get into one ministry, they think they own that ministry for the rest of their lives. And I see some heads nodding, so you're in agreement with me. And so when they see a younger person or a different person trying to get involved in that ministry, it creates tensions. and then conflict and all that kind of stuff. And I say, well, they ask me like, what do we do with that? I'm like, don't ask me those kind of questions. And I said, well, I think we just need to realize that at some point we're gonna die, and somebody needs to take our place, right? So we're trying to not kill pastors, but make sure that we're gonna have pastors when they move on onto other things. So if you can be praying for that, our mission is to strengthen the local church, renew the local church, and plant new churches. And the strengthening, we are developing different projects to help on that. We have the mentorship program, which we are really excited about this year. We have in our budget, you're going to see that we have three scholarships for mentorships, and we have 2 applications already in, and we're working through those. So younger people that are saying, I'm interested in ministry, and so we're trying to create opportunities for those younger people to work in ministry and learn what does it mean to be a pastor. And so last year we had one with somebody from Strawberry Lake Church moved to Omaha, Jude, and he was there for about 8 months, something like that. We graduated him, and he's more passionate about ministry. And so we're looking into different opportunities for him. How can he serve the Central District, renewing the new church, renewing churches, and this one it's hard. I'm gonna be honest. And I was sharing with the DMC, the leaders in the Central District. Let's just be honest for a second, and this one is hard, right? And the passage for a convention, it spoke to me, and as I have a mentor in Omaha, Dr. James Ekman, and I went to his office, and we were talking about different things about church and things like that. And he says, I asked him like, what kind of resources are out there for small town churches? And so he referred me to Ron Clausen, which is our speaker. And we were talking about convention, and he sent me this passage, and he says, I think this is a passage that we need for your convention. And I read it, and I'm like, yes, this is what we need. And so for the last 6 months, this passage has been close to my heart, and not by might nor by power, but my spirit, right? And we can have the best strategies, and we can have the best planning, and we can have the best ideas. But if God is not with us, it's not going to work. And so when we're thinking about renewing churches and just thinking about the different conflicts that we have in our churches, in our local church, and just things are not working out well, and we have distractions and divisions and conflict and all that kind of stuff, fun stuff. But they're real and they're there. So how do we go about those things? And it's just trying to focus back into God's word and what the Spirit is trying to lead into our hearts and the way that He wants us to be in our churches. Thank you, John. Planting new churches. Do you know when was the last time that we planted a church in the Central District? Five years ago. Renewal, what was that? 5, 6 years ago? 5 years ago. That was the last time that we planted a church. We were really intentional about planting a church this year, and we didn't accomplish that goal. We were close. we had different interviews, different leads, different guys but and that's okay. But I really want us to encourage to keep praying for what is the next opportunity for us to plant churches. Taking a risk. I like one of the last quotes. Are we giving God fresh opportunities for Him to work? And sometimes it feels like church planting is such a risky thing to do, and sometimes we're afraid of we're gonna spend a lot of money on a church plan and resources and people, and then if it doesn't work, what do we do about it? right? So if you please keep praying for sure for that we can be able to plant a church. There's different leads that we are working on right now in different places, and I get really excited every time that I travel to your churches. I'm like, we can plant a church here, right? Like I've been to Minot, which it was last week, and some things are very excited that are going on there, and I'm like, yes. And then I go to Huron, and then I say, well, this is great. Huron is very diverse. You need to go to Huron. If you haven't been to Huron lately, it's very diverse. I would love to see us planting a church in that area. I go to Fargo, and then we have Strawberry Lake and Lake Region Church very close by Fargo, and we dream about Fargo, planting a church there. And so, yeah, almost every time that I go visit a church, I'm like, yes, but we need people that is willing to say, yes, God is calling me to do that. So I have a challenge for you. Are you guys ready? I don't know the numbers, but I just pick up number, and I felt good with that number, and I'm going with that number. Don't ask me why that number, just I went with it. Okay? So my challenge for the Central District for this coming year, 2024-2025, we're starting October 1st because that was when our fiscal year started. That our churches together, we can say, we're going to reach out. We're going to take seriously the commandment of Jesus, go and make disciples. Are we taking that seriously, right? And so my challenge to us is that during this coming year, fiscal year, that we can have 165 people saved and that we can have 160 baptisms. Can we do that? I'm going to give you a second chance. Here's the thing. I told you not to ask me why the number. 165 people saved, new believers in Christ. And we can only accomplish that by us preaching the gospel of Jesus. There's no other way. And 165 people getting baptized. That means that we're not only going to preach the gospel, but we're going to walk in a discipleship relationship with that people and help them realize what does it mean to be a believer of Jesus. Can we do that? Good. And good news, we already have 3. So we're good. We're starting good. My hope and my prayer is that in 6 months, so you need to report that to Rhonda. Rhonda, you're somewhere. You need to report that to Rhonda. So if you get people saved and baptisms in your church, make sure that Rhonda knows about it because she's going to keep track of that. And so she already is doing that. So we have 3 baptisms. So we only need 162. So we're there. We're moving. So finally, I just want us to encourage to keep praying for our pastors. I keep saying this in every church that I go to. Being a pastor is one of the most important jobs in the world. Doctors are important, but we need more pastors. And we need to be praying for the pastors that we already have, and we need to pray for the future pastors in our congregations. It's a hard job. So keep praying for the pastors and keep praying for us. I'm honored and to serve as a Central District district minister. Very humbled by it. I get emotional just thinking of the ways that God is always working in our lives. So I'm really grateful to serve you as a district minister. Very thankful for my family. They're always, most of the time, traveling with me. So I feel great support from Wendy and the kids. So keep praying for us. That's my catchphrase. Just keep praying for us. Thank you very much. And before I introduce Rhonda, she is my administrative assistant. She does a really, 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 really good job. Like, really. So, yeah, so I appreciate Rhonda very much. She does a lot of things for me. And so please respond to the emails when she sends emails.
Yes, I'm Rhonda Swears from Lake Region Mennonite Church in Minnesota. And you have my report in front of you. I'm not going to add a lot to it, just a couple things to highlight. As Daniel said, one of his main jobs is being a pastor to the pastor. So something that we really try to promote each year is our pastor spouse retreat. So as you see in your report, we're very much so urging you as a church to send your pastors. So make sure that they know when that is. It's April 25th through the 27th. There's a slide with those dates on it, if we can put that up on the screen. It's a PowerPoint, but just need the first slide there for right now. So April 25th through the 27th, 2025, at Castaway Club in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. Those of you that were there last year, you can encourage other pastors to come. It's a beautiful facility. Just a really good time for the pastors to take a break and get fed for the weekend. So please, as a church, send your pastor. It is the only expense to the pastor is to get there. Otherwise, Central District covers the cost. So give your pastor some gas money and send them. And a couple things, just a couple reminders. If you are not on the mass email list and you would like to be, if you do not get, for instance, like our bi-monthly partner newsletter, that means you would not be on the mailing list. If you would like to receive that, please notify me. My email is rhonda@centralmb.org, and I can put you on that list. If you're here and you registered, you will be on the list unless you tell me you do not want to be. And along with that, so anything that I can do to help you connect to Central District, to other churches, please let me know. I can try to do what I can in that department. And that is all I have. If you have any questions, you can let me know.
I got to write a note here before I forget it. Oops, that's not typed right. Good morning, everyone. Dan Strutz. I am the chair of our Board of Faith and Life, which I've been realizing we call it the BFL, but it really is the FLC, isn't it? Faith and Life Committee. Isn't that what anyway, I don't know. That's what it says in our thing. That's the Faith and Life Committee. I don't know. But we'll always call it the BFL. I am blessed to be here with a group of other guys that are on the team, and I want to introduce Stephen. Stand up. Is on our board. John Langer is on our board. Samuel is not here, but I'm sure he wishes he could be. You guys can sit. And I wanted to make a mention of, I think the guys that are nominees are also here, right? So Dwayne back there, he and Stuart, wherever he ran off to. Those would be the guys that are nominated, so I just want to point that out because I think connect their names and faces with this committee. And if I didn't say, the most important person, though the most silent person on our board, is the lady that's over here in the corner, and she doesn't want me to introduce her, but she's like the one that keeps it all together. So Melissa is very helpful with that. So you can go in and read the report and catch some notes. Again, I want to just make some highlights, and I will do that, but I wanted to kind of give a couple verses and a couple thoughts real quick. I've appreciated Ron's messaging and some of his things, just talking about how the history of God's people, both Old Testament passages, and really how God had to continue to work. Ephesians 2:19 through 20, it says there, "So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Christ Jesus himself being the cornerstone." And then the other verse I want to read is, "Therefore we are ambassadors of Christ, God making his appeal through us. We implore you on behalf of Christ, be reconciled to God." And bring those two verses up. One, the highlight in the first one for me is the idea of being fellow citizens with something. The second one talks about us being ambassadors. And I want to bring this up as the Board of Faith and Life chair, that over the last week, I don't know if you know, but something major happened in our country. We went through this huge election. It's been highlighted. And in the midst of it, probably leading up to this, you were like, oh my gosh, there's so much volatility, there's so much up and down, and now we can sit there and say, okay, thankfully the volatility is over, the chaos is done, the uncertainty is behind us. And it's just on my heart to at least speak here amongst this group to say, even if it is over, the election, don't get comfortable in saying, hey, now things are okay. I want to give a caution to say, don't be thinking that, hey, it's great now, because we're mindful that we are fellow citizens of another kingdom. We are citizens and ambassadors of a different king. And so even as we start to think and we go through this week and we think about, okay, the Board of Faith and Life and the things that we tackle and the issues that face us theologically and as Christians, let's not get comfortable so that the devil can just say, okay, things are okay, we're okay, because we have a lot of work to do, and God has a lot of work to do through us. With that, the purpose of the Board of Faith and Life is ultimately to be good stewards of our churches, of the theology, of the doctrine, to kind of hold the confession of faith that we all hold as USMB, and kind of hold that before us and make sure we're kind of holding to and acting in regards to that as churches. In our bylaws, it says that our purpose is to watch over the spiritual welfare of churches and advise and aid them when serious questions relating to doctrine, conflict, and church polity arise. And so that's, for those of you that don't know, that's part of what our Board of Faith and Life does. Over the last year, we've had some of the joys which come and go every year, which is licensing of new pastors. I can think of 3 of them. If there's others, I'm sorry. Sebastian Morales was in Bethesda. He was one we licensed this year. Tony, there he is, back in Aquaviva. We had the opportunity to license him as a pastor. And then Solomon Garadu, is that how you say it? From Bethel, Ethiopian here in Sioux Falls was another one. And those are the joys. We get to meet with these guys, hear their stories, their testimonies. We get to hear what God is doing and how he's called them and kind of set them up and say, hey, yeah, we affirm that you are part of our family and you are holding to what we would say the confession of faith, and we get the exciting joy of doing that. This year, though, we've also had difficulties within our board. We had, a vacancy as someone had to withdraw from our team. We had different just things that we had to wrestle through and maybe didn't come to the conclusions we wanted on. We had just the concern before us of the health and stability of pastors and how are things going in our district, as Daniel kind of highlighted earlier. Earlier in the year, I would report that we had to work with a document at the national level concerning how do we treat and handle those of LGBT ideas. My comment on that is that we reviewed it as a district, we critiqued it, we sent it back to the national level. I think Daniel and Jesse represented us well there, even if we still had some question marks on the document as a whole. But I would say at a national level, those guys, they represent us well, they do a great job, and I appreciate working with them. Some of the things that also this year, we had challenges in trying to work on some of the credentialing material. We're trying to get some ideas together. We were working and got a document from a task force that was assigned to help with credentialing. That is still in process. We're still working on some of the finer details and how we want to work through things like how do we bring in a clarity and to pastor roles and who we would license as a pastor, who needs a ministry license. What are the educational requirements around a pastoral license? Is there any? The beautiful thing is some of the things we were saying, hey, we'd like those as educational requirements. The district is already doing through some different, what would we call them, Daniel, online kind of in-house classes that we're doing. And then also within that, as far as licensing, we're talking about how do we call pastors to continue to regularly affirm the confession of faith on a regular basis. So that's something that is going to be still on our docket over this next year. We also had some questions that came up around ordination, something that hasn't really been pursued by too many people over the last bunch of years, and something that as we did have it brought up, we kind of said, hey, that's a little bit, there's a datedness to this. For instance, there was a book that was being asked for people to read. That's not even in print anymore. You can't get it. So there's some things that we need to work on there, and I know at the U.S. level that that's being looked at as well. So that is, those are some of the things. Again, you can read my report. It was a challenging year. Some of that rests on my shoulders and moving some things forward. But I think we're starting to get back on the same page as a team and moving things in the right direction. I would note that Rhonda mentioned the pastoral retreat, which kind of falls under our umbrella a little bit. And I would say, yes, you're right in saying that the only cost is the gas money to get there. But I would also give, as one who is a former pastor and to the churches, there's hidden costs in a pastor's brain in going to something like that. For instance, find someone to preach that weekend for them so they don't have to worry about that. And also, I'd even say, encourage them and remind them, this isn't vacation time. This is something for your soul. So there's a couple things. Encourage them, not just by giving them gas money, but encourage them to say, hey, this is a value to our church to please go. Please be gone. We honor you. We want you to go to this. So that's what I would say. One last comment, and then I'll be off the stage and out of your way. One of the things I would say as we're here this weekend, I would say ask yourselves a question from a Board of Faith and Life side. What are the things that you're going to get passionate about here in this room as we talk about business and stuff like that? What are the things that you want to focus on and take back to your churches? What are the things that stirs our hearts? In about 10 years of being part of this family, I can maybe see sometimes where things like the budget or little things with how we adjust the Constitution, those can often be the things that we get really emotional and excited to make sure they go right. And in part, I don't blame you. I think my wife is actually helping with the budget, so I can see why that'd be an important part. She's really attractive, right? But here's the thing. If the details of the dollars and the details of how we structure our Constitution are the things that you get really passionate and stirred about, I would ask you to be cautious of that rather than getting passionate, stirred, excited about some of the things that Ron is talking about, saying, how can we renew our churches? How can we go on our knees? That as a DMC, we've talked a little bit about how, there's a lot of pastors that are in tough spots. How can we go on our knees and pray before God, even if it's in ashes and sackcloth, and say, Lord, bring pastors to us. Raise up new pastors within us. Bring us the guys you need. Help us plant churches. Help us renew things. I say that because if you go away and the thing that you're excited about and most passionate and you are most want to put your most energy into here is the budget, I'd be cautious in where your heart is. Because that's important and it helps fuel this ministry. But we want to make sure that we realize that it's God who does stuff and he doesn't need a budget. So let me just finish with that, and thank you for your time.
But I have notes because I'll speak for hours of it. I know, and I get to talk again tonight too. So man, I'm literally gonna be 2 minutes, because again, I love when I come to conference because you guys are my family. But it's always just read my report. My report wasn't even a report; it was like a blog article. Because we have lots of stories that I could talk about, but I just really want us to be encouraged by where we're going forward. And Seuss, come on. Who am I? They gave me a microphone, so that's what I get to do. It's on my nameplate. I'm Christian. I'm from Redemption Church in Owatonna, and I can see the screen moving. I'm sorry, Jeff. I move a lot, so don't. I'll stand still. No, they have to do it at church too. So this is. Yeah. I am. I love you guys. I even got a hug from Rick Walters yesterday. I know. I've been here 7 years now, and my favorite part, one of the favorite parts of my year is coming here. And it's not because of the budget or the boring business meetings. I'm just going to tell you. But that's what I hope for and pray for as we move forward as a district. As I'm talking about church planting and renewal. Because again, Daniel said, we haven't planted churches. We have some even prospects potentially. And again, you can read my report, which it's not that good, so don't read it. It's fine. But I do think we're in a season, and I'm really appreciative. I haven't met Ron yet. I don't even know where he is. I'm a really fast reader, so I stole your book from the table, and I was reading it. And I just think some of you may be feeling this as a church planter who doesn't call himself a church planter anymore. Are you in a declining situation? Page 39. Let Paul be your inspiration. Don't let decline lull you into complacency. Our respected pastor friend who has devoted his whole life to small town ministry said, I prepare messages for 10 the same way I do for 100. Paul was also quick to commend the Colossians in his salutation. He calls them holy and faithful. Note that he doesn't call them losers because they were in a declining small town or an insignificant, nor were they insignificant because they were in a small church. Paul's other salutation shows this one to be uncharacteristic. Beginning in chapter 1 of Colossians, verse 3, Paul heaps words of praise on this little church. He commends them for their faith and their love and for their fruitful ministry. This church may not have been located on a 40-acre campus or held several services each Sunday or attended by thousands, but Paul certainly did not view it as a second-rate church. That's a lot of us, right? I'm actually pretty fortunate. I was just having some coffee with some guys this morning to say like, wow, I got a big church, right? But it doesn't mean you guys are insignificant. It doesn't mean any of us are insignificant. And I've been a church of 17,000. But we need more leaders. We need to be a family together. We need to do things like prayer nights. How many of you have been on those? Right? Jesse always makes fun of me because I'm always in the street because my boys are going to bed and it's always dark and they're like, we can't even see you. And I'm like, well, I'm just wandering around in the street. Do you know how awesome that is, though? And again, you read the report. I don't care. I want us to be a family. And I think we are in a season as a district where we might not be planting lots of churches, but things are happening. I mean, our church has done a whole bunch of baptisms this year. And it's not just my church, it's other churches as well. A bunch of churches have brought in a bunch of members. That's pretty awesome. I just want to encourage you. Again, I'll just turn this off and just say, okay, we're not done yet. I know I'm not alone in saying I love this family. National level, oh yeah, they got problems and they got this and we're going to support them too. But man, I love you guys. Let's do this together. The budget's important, BFL's important, like it's all important. But can we just keep reaching people? You're going to hear stories tonight. People are being reached. Can we just do it? Right? Can we just, this is not a self-promotion at all, because please, whatever. I'm going to do the workshop later about just evangelism. Like, can we keep reaching people for Jesus? Now I'm like a deer in the headlights because I don't know what else to say. How many? Aaron, our district minister, he's going to make fun of me. It's okay. I watched The Forge the other day, and it was, man, everyone's like the Kendrick brothers. The movie was okay. But you know what hit me? A bunch of dudes sitting around doing discipleship. And it's not just guys, because I'm pretty sure Ron this morning even said a bunch of old ladies were doing the same thing. Can we be about that? So, yeah, sorry for the worst report ever, but I really want us to just continue to be a family that surrounds each other and plants churches and renews churches, because I think the statistics do show that there is no pastors, there's no leaders, there's nothing right now. And every pastor in here, I almost want to say stand up and just so we can commend you, because it's hard at times to say like, hey, young guy in my church, you should be a pastor because it's fun. And every pastor or elder or leader laughs, right? So thank you for your support. You'll, again, hear the numbers in a minute, but like, thank you for your support of the church planting and renewal committee and everything we're trying to do. There's a lot of cool things that you're going to hear tonight. So I love you.
All right. Well, my name is John Annan. I am the pastor of Stony Brook Church in Omaha, Nebraska. Been there for 3 years. And just to go off of what Christian just said, we were a church that I guess technically entered the renewal process 3 years ago. We were in a pretty tough spot when I arrived, and it was extremely helpful. And I would encourage other churches to not avoid that. There was a sense, I remember my first conference in Jamestown of like, oh man, we have all these loans and we have all this, we're getting so much support. There's a certain twinge of like almost guilt in that, like, oh, we should be doing this on our own, but it was so helpful. And a lot of our ability to move to a better place came through the process of being supported by being in renewal. And so we're excited now to give more to that as we come out of that season. And so I would encourage you, if you in that season, don't resist it. And when you're out of that season, give so that others can experience renewal. So I have the privilege of chairing the youth committee. It has been a year of a lot of transitions. You'll see on the report there are names there that will no longer be on committee. We had 2 people leave the conference, not for any bad reasons, just they moved back with family, and so Abby Gowanja and Amber Davidson will be leaving the committee as of pretty much now. They've been practically off committee already as we've been planning future events. There's no need for them to be there. So anyone not named John is no longer on the committee. It's just me and John Pete from Rapid City. But we are so excited. We have a team now of 5 after we finalize the process this weekend of getting the team back up to full speed. As you'll see the names coming up, Jude Johnson and Stephanie Dillman and somebody else. Well, there's a 5th, but it's so excited to have a full team. Yeah, thank you, Alex Jansen as well. So Alex is going to take over Amber's final two years of her term, and so we're very excited about that. So I asked Daniel. I was just curious. I was like, "Could we play a game real quick?" And he said yes. So we're going to play a quick game. If you have any youth in your church these days, you may notice they're running around and they're using a whole different language, right? Have you caught that? Like skibbity and sigma and all that stuff. And so we're going to do a quick quiz, okay? I'm going to ask you some Gen Z lingo, all right? And you are going to, on your fingers, vote one, two, or three for definition, just for the fun of it, okay? And so I don't know these. Don't show your answer until I say show, because there's some people here like Sebastian probably knows a little bit of Gen Z lingo. The kids might know a little bit, so wait until we say show, and then keep track of how many you get, okay? So which of the following is another word for uncool? All right? Is it, and you'll say 1, 2, or 3 on your fingers, is it, there are literally no vowels in this word, I apologize. SKRRT, skirt. Is it chuggy, or is it bet? Skirt, chuggy, or bet? Uncool. Ready? I got 5 seconds to think. Ready? 3, 2, 1, show. All right? The answer is chuggy. Very good, Jesse. All right, here we go. Next one. If something slaps, is it 1, excellent or amazing, 2, surprising or scary, or 3, beautiful or handsome? All right, got 5 seconds. If something slaps. Correct, 3, 2, 1, show. Correct answer is excellent or amazing. Jesse, you're 2 for 2. What's going on? All right. We'll do 5, okay? What does snatched mean? Snatched. Is it stolen? Number 1. Is it fierce or on point? Number 2. Or is it exhausted? Number 3. I saw someone nodding at the correct answer there. Is it stolen, fierce, or exhausted? Snatched. All right, 3, 2, 1, show. Correct answer is fierce or on point. There we go. Aaron Garza's rocking too. All right, number 4. Anybody 3 for 3? Raise your hand if you're okay, we got a few 3 for 3s. All right, number 4. Which of the following means a look or style that is extremely fashionable, or I apologize for saying this from stage, or sexy, okay? Extremely fashionable or sexy. Is it bussin', number 1? Is it bet, or is it drip? Ooh, all right. 3, 2, 1, show. Correct answer is, I'm sorry, Jesse, it's drip. All right, Eden got that one. All right. And the last one for today is this. What does no cap mean? No cap. All right, I know some of you are nodding, you got this one. Does it mean no lie or for real? Does it mean chill or without stress? Or does it mean not cool? So number 1, no lie. Number 2, chill. Number 3, not cool. Ready? 3, 2, 1, show. Correct answer is, I assume I got it right. Yep. No lie or for real. Was anybody 5 for 5? Raise your hand. All right, very good. I think the average age of 5 for 5 is pretty young. Very, very good, though. Here's the deal. Obviously, we all know this, but raising up the youth of the next generation is extremely important. And like it or not, Daniel said everyone's going to die. And when that happens, the church will be handed off to the next generation. So the kids that are running around using all this language, they will be the recipients of the church. And so it is important that we as churches and we as a conference make sure that we are doing whatever we can to help the next generation own their faith, survive the college years, and come out on the far side as, adults that still love the Lord and want to follow the Lord, and also would like to take on that leadership mantle of pastor and elder and just church member and leader that is helping the gospel go forward. And so I am passionate about that. John Peterson is, our whole committee is. You have in your notes there a little bit of what we did this last year. We are primarily responsible for 3 events. We have a summer camp, which you have all the notes there. I was the speaker at the high school camp. Logan, who you'll meet this weekend, was speaker at junior high camp. Had a great weekend up there. Probably our biggest event is the youth conference coming up here actually in 2 weeks in Rapid City. We already have, we're Probably today we're going to go over 100 people that are attending that event. Alex Jansen's going to be our speaker. The Tabor Band always brings the music to that event. And that event, actually, we have right now 12 MB churches signed up, bringing at least one youth. But there's a bunch not signed up. It'll be about 15 or 16 by the time we're done. We give a lot of grace. We know they're coming. And so that's coming up here in 2 weeks. And then also in February, we have a youth leaders retreat, which this year we'd like to expand that a bit as well, maybe have some multiple locations involved with that event, because it can be difficult to go to one location in this very large district area. So here's the deal. If you would like more information, I'm going to give you my cell phone number, and you can reach me at any time. Text me, call me, all right? I prefer that over any means of communication. So if you want to write this down, my number is 559, I'll say it a few times, 977-3283. Again, that's 559-977-3283. And if you would like any information or thoughts, or you just want to be included on our communication, text me your name, your church, and I'll get back to you, and we'll talk, and we'll get that all set up. Because a lot of you may not have even known we had a conference coming up here in a couple weeks, and you don't have a youth pastor or a youth director, or we didn't have your information updated. Last year, I had you all come to me, but it's easier this way. If you just text me, because I know we're all talking to our friends this weekend, and you don't get around to seeing me, just text me, get the conversation going. I would love to talk with you about how to get your youth leaders. Our vision as a conference, and I haven't officially given this to Daniel yet, but we talked about this as a group, is we want to strengthen relationships and create community between all Central District youth and God, each other, their leaders, and other Central District youth. And so that's kind of our vision for our team. So if you would like more information on that, if you want to get your youth leader, director, whatever you call them, connected to that mission and vision, you have my number. Please text me, and I can let you know. And it's not too late. I know it's crazy, but it's 2 weeks away. It's not too late. If you have 5, 6 youth that want to come to Rapid City, it's not too late to jump on that ship, and we will get you there. All right? Thank you, guys.
Been sitting too long. First, I'm John Quiring. I am the chair of the trustee committee. Before I get into my report, I think is on page 19. I'm not going to read that, but I am going to highlight a couple things. But before I would do that, I want to acknowledge the other members on the team. Susanna Strutz is on the team, and I think maybe she and I are about the only ones that are staying on for next year. So we're having my thanks are really, well, to her, but also especially for those who are leaving the group. Jedry Bauman is back there. He's our secretary. He's done 3 years, and I don't know, did anybody talk you into going for that next term? But everybody provides something special to a team, and I just thank God for that, the way He brings people together to make some things happen that need to happen. Eden Bear served his 2 terms and is termed out. He's been the vice chair. Thank you very much, Eden. Eden is having another role. If you read my report, you'll see that he's going to be. We're doing some transitioning in our bookkeeping and treasurer positions, so he's going to be helping with that and is already in that. Our longtime board member, Phil Hamburger, his term, he has another year on his term, but he has resigned. He's, when I've gone back and read old reports, Phil, and then there's a blank, and then Phil for another terms back there. So I think he was listed as the historian. I don't think that's an actual position but he's a historian because he's been around for a while and helps us with that. And then Richard Walter is ex officio as the appointed treasurer. In some of our districts, the trustee, I don't know what you think of when you think of trustee. It's maybe a little more technical. Some of the districts call their finance group stewardship committee, and maybe that's in your church that way too. And so, what are stewards? What are stewards there for? I think one of the things, and in my report, we did kind of an internal audit to look and see whether we had policies that were useful, whether we were being transparent, whether we were being faithful in our reporting and in our handling. Those are all stewardship things. But one of the things that I think sometimes gets overlooked, and maybe the way when you talk about budgets and money and that kind of stuff, it's a steward listens to God and knows when to be able to be generous. And so sometimes I think I want us to communicate in our policies and how we do things that we are ready to listen to God when we as a group sense something is going to happen or needs to happen. The initiatives that Ron was talking about, the things that Dan said this morning, the things that we've heard, in the last couple days, those are tremendously important kinds of things. So, but sometimes the policies and some of our structures need to be in place just so people understand that part of it. And so one of the things that we are having that transition, we're going to be, we've consulted with, in our internal audit, we found that, the people that have been doing this in the past, Richard's been treasurer for, I think, 35 years, and the trustees that have been there before have handled the money well. It's been invested well, and we think everything's accounted for. So that was a good thing that we found in our audit. One of the other things was that we probably started needing to do our accounting on a computerized standard platform so that if Richard ever stops, that we'll be able to somebody else will be able to pick up those reports, pick up the computer programming for the finances, and be able to take on without a big crisis. So, and it helps with transparency, being able to understand reports that are fit the general accepted accounting practices format a little bit more. So that's one of the reasons for why we are making that. We're working on that. I thank Eden a whole bunch and Richard, because change isn't always easy, and so that's one of the Ron was talking about some things where you've seen God act. That'll be my testimony that I prayed that we will be able to do this in a way that honors and shows respect for for everything that everybody's been doing in the past and for the future. So I really thank God for that. One of the things that, can you bring up that slide that I had? I think I spent more than an hour at the DMC talking about this, but I just want to share a little bit of this. It's how we go about. You're gonna see the budget maybe tomorrow, but how do we get to that? And we kind of put that together at the requests of the other groups that come together. But part of it is how do we plan for the budget? How do we set some of our things? How do we handle our finances? The assets we made here, if you look at our assets, we had several, most of our investment funds are with MB Foundation. Well, in fact, all of them were. And they were in 3 different funds that were maybe policy-wise weren't very well defined about how they could be used, how could you withdraw from them, what needed to be saved for the future and whatnot. So we combined them into 2 funds. We took the bigger amount, this legacy endowment. At the time we had about 2.9 million in investments. We took 2.3, that was in March, and put that in that will handle it as a real endowment, where we're taking out 5% each year in quarterly amounts of 29,000. So that is available for spending in the budget. The other amount, the smaller amount there, we put in a ministry fund that doesn't have as many rules or boundaries in terms of spending. And those kind of funds, and plus the giving that we've gotten historically from the churches, kind of set some groundwork for the budget. Now, I thought of this when I looked at this. I said, oh, these are boxes. You know, when you think of, are these locked boxes? Are these, that question of, oh, let's put that in a box and save it. Let's put that in a box and save it. I think we've been reminded that part of a steward is being able to know when to take it out, and when God is acting, when there's an initiative that needs to take place. We set some guidelines for when we do the budget, but just like, what was that, 3 years ago when God seemed to be doing something in Awatana, and there was that church property that was all money outside of the budget. So there is that, there are no boundaries on that money, really. So if the leadership, if DMC, and if there's some opportunities that come up, I think we're ready to follow that lead. So I just want to say that, so that I think in the past I've been on the trustees off and on. There's that feeling like, oh, trustees are just sitting there with that money in their pocket and they won't spend it. That's not where we're at. So we do set up some boundaries, just so we have some policies, but we want to be open to seeing a new initiative take place. One other thing that I'll point out that goes into our revenue is we have 6 endowments. that these are individual endowments. We don't own these, but they're managed by John and the foundation. And people have said we want to give some of our the revenue off of these endowments to Central District. And so there's about $43,500. You'll see it in the budget that comes in every year from these foundations that help us put together our revenue list and shows what we can spend. I don't know if there are any questions. No one has asked for questions yet, but should I? Can I? Are there any questions about? And maybe there'll be questions after Richard. Richard's coming up now. There will be another. Susanna is going to help a little bit with presenting the budget tomorrow, so maybe she'll get the question.
Thank you, John. My report is on page 21, 22, 23, 24, and beyond. No. But if you want to turn to page 21, I guess I've been treasurer since 1989. So I guess John is finally understands how this works now, right? Took him 30 years. No. What I must say is that thank you, churches, for supporting the Central District Conference. Church Planning Board, the churches that we started and maintained and helped support in the various past years. Christ Community Church is we supported them now for a number of years to get them started. Lincoln Hills, various churches around the district we have supported in the past years. Look at my report on page 21. Our church gifts are up 3% from last year. So that's a good point moving forward, and I hope you continue to do that in this upcoming year. I think our whole district in the farming sector has had a very good, we've had good crops this year across our whole district in the farming community. But the prices are low, but the Lord will still provide. Okay. We have church principals there, 49,000. We gave Stony Brook, they were having financial problems 2-3 years ago, and we told them, okay, you don't have to pay any of your money back for 3 years. Give them a moratorium. Well, after 2 years now, they have given us a check of close to $16,000 in August, so they are now paying off on their loan. Okay, total church giving there, $248,000. What other things do we get money from other than church giving? We have our legacy endowment, $58,000, ministry fund, $43,000, and individual endowments earning $56,000. And John talked a little about these endowments. They streamlined them into one endowment, one big endowment, and then one fund endowment, and then also these individuals. What am I talking about individual endowments about? It's like John said, when people have died, they have given land, and then after they have died, the land is given into the MB Foundation, and then they start the endowment, and then we get earnings from that. And we have, I think, 6 individuals that have done that in their legacy. So as we come to the end of our life, as we get older, we can probably think about how we can do that. And this money is a pretty big account. It's going to come back to the district every year in that type of an amount. Okay, expenses, church planning, 184, trustees, 169. We had one conference expense already for last night's meal of $500. I got that itemized so that we can continue on, figure out how much the conference will cost this year. So operating of 368. You subtract the two there, and we have a beginning balance of a year ago of 2,000, and this year we have an ending balance of 41,000. My, that's pretty good. So 2 years ago, we changed our fiscal year from August 31st to the end of to the end of September. And so we always have quarterly earnings from our endowments. And so this report shows us with 5 quarters in it, and that's why we have such a high balance, 41,000. Because we caught up with the year. Because MB Foundation, they gives us the money in numbers at the end of each quarter of a regular year. So that's why we have a very good balance. Okay, next page, page 22. It's an asset and liability page. The assets there are $3,183,000. We have three churches that still had loans at the end of the year: Lincoln Hills, Stony Brook, and Ethiopian of Sioux Falls, and we'll share something about them tonight at the church planning banquet. Okay, so we have equity there. We have new work development. That's $75,000. That $75,000 comes from the former Washington Heights business, Bismarck Church, which was sold in the 90s. And Clint Grants, Carol Grants, and myself were given the option of what to do with this money. Well, they have both passed on, and I'm the only one left. And it was always earmarked for North Dakota work. Well, now I guess I have taken the initiative to say, no, I'm going to give this money to anywhere where there's a new development in some way or form. Not for salary, but maybe for rent, maybe for a capital outlay in some way or form. Because this used to be from the New York, from the work in Bismarck. But now we can use it wherever. Okay, so you can see the length in the legacy. They put $2 million into that, and the market value as of the end of September was 2.381. Same way with the Central District Ministry Fund. They lowered that from last year to add it to make the legacy endowment to the 2.3. And then the bottom one, they eliminated that completely. Okay. The next page, you can look at your church, what they gave. You can look at the churches that gave nothing. So that's a report there. Okay, on page 24 and 25, you're going to see there where our budget was spent, and you're also going to see what the new budget is coming up, and we're going to get into that tomorrow, so you can look to see where the new budget is, and on the 25th page is how we're going to get the revenue to pay for the new budget of $398,000. So that would be my report. Oh, very last page. No, page 24. There's a refugee grant, $3,000. We had some refugees come in from, have to help me, Ethiopia or Congolese? Okay. Okay. Did everybody hear that? Refugees came from various areas in Africa, came to Sioux Falls, and Claude needed some money in order to support these refugees that came. And we as a district gave Claude and his church $3,000 refugee grant. So, any questions now? Is anybody's going to talk about the Easter and the flooding? You're going to do that tomorrow? Okay. Maybe you should.
Yeah, Susanna's going. Thank you, Richard. That was really good. If you want to know anything more, I mean, about our about the investments, a little bit more about get into the weeds on that. The MB Foundation does a good job. Now you showed a gain of we have church grants, and then we have some money invested in. Part of our investments are in loans, the church loans. Some is stocks, some is bonds. So that part is volatile. And you mentioned it can be. So 11.8, you said this year so far. Now our fiscal year goes back into the third or the fourth quarter of last year. So we actually had performance on our of close to 20%, maybe 19 after because the first quarter was, I think we had gains of 10%. Then first quarter was almost zero, or maybe even a little bit where we lost some ground. Third quarter was 5%. Fourth quarter was also 5%. So we were looking at close to 20%, 19% after. But if you want to know any more of that, just talk to me, and we'll sign you up to be a trustee.
If I could, for just a minute before Daniel comes to walk us through the nominating committee report, which the nominating committee had an extra measure of work this year, so we really want to thank them. But in your program, if you've been following these pages, you'll see the one that's got a fair amount of red lettering on it. And we touched on this last year about some bylaw work we wanted to clean up a little bit. It had been 3 years ago, and all the bylaws had been reworked and passed. And so we hope not to be in a habit of bringing bylaw further amendments every other year or whatever. But there was enough going on this year with how we thought we'd like to have the youth committee addressed in our bylaws, how we'd like to have unexpected openings and unexpired terms of our committees. Frankly, that one got us more motivated by the passing of Darrell Tays, if you recall, from Montana, had been on our trustee committee. And then the last one involves a conference treasury between our trustees and our youth. And you'll hear more about these tomorrow before we ask for your approval to vote on them along with the whole budget.
Justin, how are you? I'm good. Are you ready? I'm supposed to be a pastor to the pastors, so I'm going to be next to you as you go through this.
No, I was not planning on doing any kind of report, so I'm hugely unprepared for this. I honestly don't really know what I'm doing, except for what I would like to ask you, because we do need a few nominees, and we decided to do some from the floor nominations and whatever, and that's kind of a tough deal, so that's not going as well as we had hoped. So what the suggestion was is to fill some of these later on and stuff. I'm fully on board with that. And since I'm the only member of the nominating committee here, I'm going to go with that because there's nobody else here to talk to about it. So, but what I would like to ask, I don't know if we're supposed to eat lunch right at noon or anything like that, but I do have something that has been kind of burning on my heart just a little bit because I've been part of the nominating committee and thinking about like looking at my congregation and my community and where leaders can come from. And leaders are part of these committees that help drive our conference and help drive that. So I'd like to ask you, are you a chicken or a duck? You can think about it for just a minute. A chicken, if you watch them lead, they lead from behind. A mother hen is walking behind her chicks, watching, making sure they go in the right direction. A duck leads, is out in the front, walking, making sure they're leading the direction. Both are very valid leadership styles. Both of them are very needed. And us, as we look, as Daniel gave a very uplifting testimony about pastors, we're all going to die. So for me as a leader, because I'm going to die, I hope I got a few years left, but me as a leader, am I leading a group in a way that's giving them opportunities to be leaders? Am I giving them the opportunity to be able to expand on what God has given them as a leadership style? A good leader develops more leaders. A bad leader I shouldn't say a bad leader, but some leaders just develop followers. If you want to be a true leader, you need to be able to develop leaders. And to be able to develop leaders, we need to be able to see leadership within our groups. And the leaderships on these committees are very, very important to the growth of our conference, of our communities, ultimately our churches. That's what this is all about, is God's church. Daniel, you were supposed to be up here standing here supporting me, and you didn't. You're leading like a chicken. All right. I don't know what I think I'm supposed to hand these out. Okay, so any delegate needs to get one of them because we're voting on the committees right now. Is that correct, Daniel? Is that how we do it? No. Yeah, so everybody that's everybody that's been contacted is on the ballot that we'll vote for. The three that we need yet are for the nominating committee, one for church planting, and one for the trustees. Those are the three that we don't have on there, and they're blank on the deal. So does that make sense? And when do we actually vote? So the ballots that you have, you can look them over, and we'll do the vote on them tomorrow. So.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, keep praying for those names. We're going to vote on those tomorrow, so that gives us still a little bit of time for you to read those. We're 5 minutes late to lunch, which is okay. That way you can work your appetite. I'm supposed to give some announcements. We're going to have lunch at Lincoln Hills Church. So, Pastor Tony, what color is your car? Just, I'm sure that we're going to have the address. I think it's in your schedule. If you don't have the address, do we have it on the board? You said you just take the street and go, right? So if you need special directions, I think Pastor Jeff knows a way to get there in a very safe way. If not, just follow that guy, right? And so
5401 South Cliff Avenue, if you want to put that in your maps program. 5401 South Cliff. Either that, just make a left out the lout here. I'd say go to either 85th Street or 69th. Take it all the way to Cliff. and then you'll head north, take a left on Cliff, and we're 63rd and South Cliff. So then we'll get you figured out for different workshops once you get there. But let's try to get there for now. All right, let's pray. At Lincoln Hills. Yeah, all afternoon until 5 o'clock we'll be at Lincoln Hills. Yep. And then we come back here tonight at 6:30. There'll be a break before. All right? Okay, Lord, thanks for a good morning. We ask now that you guide our afternoon. Lord, bless the speakers to bring encouragement to us. Bless the food to our bodies. Keep us healthy and strong, and keep us going throughout this conference. We pray in your name. Amen.
You are dismissed for lunch.